Hi everyone, it's Chrissie. Welcome back to the channel if you've been with us for a while, or welcome to the channel if you're new. In today's video, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be answering the question of what is MC Command Center, and also why is it the absolute holy grail of Sims 4 mods, at least in my own personal opinion. So I'm going to be showing you guys all of my settings for the MC Command Center mod and kind of like how I use it. Also a little bit more about what you can actually do with the mod, and then I'm also going to be showing you how to install the mod as well at the end of the video. Okay, so here we are with the Goth family. I just loaded into a random save into a random family in my save file to show you guys a little bit of what the mod can do. So first off, with the MC Command Center mod, I know that if you guys have been around in the community for a while, you probably have at least heard about MC Command Center, and I know that it can be very, very intimidating to actually start using it. I know at first I was very intimidated by the mod because there's so much that you can actually do with it and change with it. And it is easy to screw up some things if you don't do it correctly. You can really easily mess with some game settings and stuff like that and mess up your game. So obviously, as usual, before you install any mods, back up your saves. Just back up your saves folder, make sure you have a backup. It's probably a good thing to do that periodically in any case, whether you play with mods or not. Just back up your saves every couple of weeks. It'll save you a lot of hassle down the line. But yeah, so I'm going to be showing you guys a little bit of what I do with the MC Command Center mod. Now, the first thing that you need to know is that it is a script mod, so you will need to make sure that you have, under other settings, you will need to enable custom content and mods, and you will also need to enable script mods. Otherwise, this mod will not work. It's not just regular CC, it is a script mod, so you need to enable those settings. And then second, the mod actually has quite a few different, like, I guess you could say, not interactions, but quite a few different ways of how you can interact with it and how you can change the settings and play around with all of the different settings. So first off, you will actually notice that if you click on your mailbox, you have an option with MC cheats. Now, this menu is basically active household cheats. You can fill your needs, your household's needs. You can change your lot details, like your lot traits, challenges. That's basically for if you don't want to go into build mode to change those things. And you can also do that on community lots as well. So if you have a mailbox on a community lot, you can go in and change those lot traits without having to go into build mode with cheats. You can also change the world time as well. So if you want to make it like morning time or whatever for screenshots, you can also delete stuff. So you can delete Sims on the lot. So if you say you're on a community lot and there's a bunch of ghosts that you don't want there, you can like choose to delete all of the ghosts on the lot. Or you can delete all of the spellcasters or vampires or whatever. Which is actually, I don't use this all that much, but it's really great if you want to like take specific screenshots, or if you want to storytell or anything like that and you don't want certain Sims on the lot. You can also, this is something I use quite a bit, is you can change the season. So currently we're in summer, but I can change it to be fall, for example, and suddenly it's fall. So yeah, you can do that through MC Command Center. There's also a couple of other mods that you can do that with, like UI cheats and all of that stuff, but this one is specifically for MC Command Center. You can also change the weather, so make it like cloudy, heat wave, all of that stuff. You can randomly make lightning strikes happen, or randomly strike your Sims with lightning, which, you do you if you want to do that. But the one thing that I use a lot on the mailbox is the summon menu. So in Sims/NPC household cheats, and then you can hide households, MC cleaner, MC dresser, MC occult. You can humanize all Sims. So if you have spellcasters, you don't want them anywhere in your save, you can make them all human, all of that stuff. But the one that I use a lot is the summon menu. So you can summon them by name. If you know a Sim's specific name, you can summon them like this. So I'm going to summon Xavier Roth just as a example, and then it says Xavier Roth will be right over, and then he will just come over. Your Sims don't have to call them or anything like that. They will just show up. Doesn't matter if they're at work, if they're at school, wherever they are, they will show up. You can summon them at like 3 o'clock in the morning and they will show up. So you can also say list all Sims. Now this, when you're playing in a save file like I am, where I have like hundreds of Sims, can be a little annoying because yeah, there's literally hundreds of Sims, but you can filter them by, you know, if you don't know the specific spelling of a Sim's name or something like that, this is useful. So you can filter by friends, by household, by romantic interest, by family, co-workers, you know, all of the normal stuff. That's another way that you can summon Sims. So that is basically a lot of these things on the mailbox. And like I said, I mainly only use the summon menu because that is like, I always use that, especially when I'm setting up certain things. So if I want my Sim to know another Sim for my save file, for example, and I don't want to go all over the world and chase them down to have my Sim meet them, I will just summon them and have them meet that way so that I can set up relationships. It's very, very useful for stuff like that. Okay, so next up is the menu that you get if you click on your Sim. So it doesn't need to be on your active Sim. You can click on a different Sim as well and also access this menu. The options that you might have will be a little bit different depending on whether it's your active Sim, another Sim, or something like that. But you can click on any Sim in the world. It doesn't need to be just your household either. But if you click on your active Sim, then you get greeted with all of these different options. So at the top, it will tell you your Sims' age. This is also really great for getting information about Sims, whether, you know, they're your Sims, they're Sims from other households, anything like that. It will tell you your Sim, like the Sim's age. Currently, we're on Bella Goth, so she's a young adult, but it says disabled over there because I do have aging off in this current save. Let me just turn that on really quickly. So usually it will tell you like, oh, you know, let's say play all households. Okay, so now aging is on. So when you click on the Sim, it'll tell you like 17 out of 28 days. That's how old they are. It'll tell you their spouse if they have one. It will tell you their current children, their residence, their career as well. And if they don't have a spouse, it will say none. If they don't have children, it will say none. But that's really great if you're going out and meeting other Sims and you kind of like want to know, are they married? Are they single? Without actually having to talk to them. That's fantastic. You can also modify the entire household in cast. So if you click that, it will take you into create a Sim. You can do that on like other Sims as well, not just your household. But then you can go into Sim commands. And under Sim commands, there's quite a few things. So again, you can modify and create a Sim. You can also modify career outfits, which, as you can see, Bella is wearing her career outfit, which I don't really like. So I can go in and under Sim commands, I can modify her career outfit. And she doesn't need to be wearing it for me to modify it. She can be in her PJs for all I care. But I can go in and modify her career outfit to be anything that I want it to be. You can also change your Sims' age. So you can actually change them into a different age group, like adult, teen, child, etc. Or you can go in and set days in age span. So currently Bella is 17 days out of 28 of being a young adult. But I can go in and say that she's 26 days out of 28 for being a young adult. And then it will tell me that she only has 2 days until she ages up. So that is really great, again, if you want to set up save file stuff, or if you play a legacy and you want your Sims' friends to be the same age that they are, anything like that. It's a very useful thing. You can also go to maintain Sim. And under maintain Sim, you can rename your Sim, so you don't have to go into create a Sim. You can do this for like NPCs, townies, all of that stuff as well. So if you don't want to go in, change their name, you can do it through MC Command Center. That's something that I only learned recently, and it is so useful. You can also delete the selected Sim, which I'm not going to demonstrate because I don't want to delete Bella, but you can delete her. You can kill your Sim, and then you can do it by all of the different ways. Again, not going to demonstrate that because I don't want to kill her. You can also move your Sim. So you can move them into a new household, into other households, or anything like that, which again, this just means that you don't have to go to like manage worlds, like sit through the loading screen to go to manage worlds, move your sim, and then go back into your household. You can just do it out of your household. You can set their gender preferences, and you can swap their genders, swap gender complete. So basically all of these things are things that you can do with the mod without having to go do it in Create a Sim or from Manage Worlds or stuff like that. You can also teleport commands. You can teleport a, other sim to your sim, teleport the sim to a world sim. You can teleport your sim off the lot, teleport other sims to your sim, stuff like that. Occult commands, you can alienize your sim, turn your sim into like servos, spellcasters, vampires, all of that stuff. This is very useful, again, if you want to set up things and you don't want to play through like having your sim become a vampire. Or if, you're creating a sim and you forget that you wanted them to be a vampire, so you don't have to recreate them. You can just make them a vampire with the mod. Now, the logging commands are things that I don't ever use. This is just like log get com details. This is for if you want to get your Sims' family tree, and it'll spit out like a file onto your computer of like a log file that you can then import into family tree makers, stuff like that. I don't usually use the logging commands, but it is there if you want to get into the nitty-gritty details or stuff like that. But going back, we have MCCC. Now, MCCC is basically where you can, change your Sims' traits. Again, all without having to go into Create a Sim. You can also do things like select their favorite drink. So if I want Bella's favorite drink to be grape nectar, I can do that. I can also have her select a favorite umbrella without actually having her have to do it from the umbrella rack. So, you can do that. You can, set their physique, set their voice, walk styles, sunbathing options, all of that different kind of stuff. So that's a really good thing. A lot of these options are very useful for not having to go through loading screens, is basically the point. But that is MCCC. So MC Cheats is another one that I use a lot. This is probably one that I use the most, if I'm being honest. MC Cheats is, you can increase your Sims' funds. So basically, money cheats. But you can also go to cheat some info. So you can cheat their careers. You can have them quit their job, promote them, change their amount of vacation days. Some statistics, that's a very hard word for me to say. It's basically just cheating their needs, which I never use. But you can go to expansion cheats and you can go club cheats, for example. You can add them to a club. You can make them a club leader. You can remove them from a club. So this is going to be very useful later on when I show you guys what you can do on a PC with this mod. But basically, like adding your Sims to a club, you can cheat to add them to a club if the club has like space for another Sim, basically. And that is important, and it will be more important later on. But yeah, you can do that. You can grow in together. You can unlock milestones. You can increase their celebrity levels. You can like add lifestyles to them, add careers, like not careers, degrees to them. So this is something I use a lot, especially when I set up my save file. And you can award specific degrees like honor degrees, etc. to them. You can enroll them in university if you don't want them to already have their degree. That is a very useful thing to have access to. Now, mood and buff control is basically just changing their moodlets. I don't ever use that, but it is there. And then skill cheats. So you can have your Sim forget all of the skills that they have. You can have it max them. You can randomize their skill levels. You can set all of their skill levels all at once. Or what I usually do is I go to set skills to level, and then I pick, I want her to have level 10 in, let's say, cooking, charisma, and logic. I want Bella to have a level 10 in all of those skills. So I just put in 10, and then suddenly, I don't want her to be a perfectionist, but then suddenly she will have level 10 in all of those skills. So, that is a very great thing to be able to do. So, yeah, that is something that I use a lot. Now, next up, we have occult cheats. So we have alien cheats. You can have your Sims get abducted if you wanted to do that. Increase points. So with increased points, your Sims can change, club points, for example. If they're part of a club, I can decide that, I want this club to have 10,000 points, and I can give it to them. You can change their social media followers. You can change if they have a restaurant, how many restaurant points they have, retail points, satisfaction points, like aspiration points. You can give your Sims like a bunch of aspiration points this way, which is again very nice if you don't mind cheating. You can also make your Sim happy. You can complete their current aspiration goal, reset their aspiration, reset your Sim. It's a very useful thing to have access to. Now, next up, we have MC Cleaner, which is, again, something I don't use all that often, but you can use it to, like, move your Sims' inventory to another Sim. You can sell your entire inventory, sell your household inventory, all of those kinds of things. Next up is MC Dresser. MC Dresser I mostly only use to, like, change my Sims' outfit without them having to change. So, like, I can cheat to change their outfits. But you can also do stuff like removing all of their accessories. You can randomize their clothing. You can copy and paste certain things from their outfit. So if I wanted to copy, let's say, their makeup from one outfit to the other, I can copy their makeup, and then once they are in a different outfit, I can just paste that same makeup onto them, if that makes sense. So I just copied Bella's formal makeup. I'm going to have her change into, let's say, her, sleepwear. And then I'm going to go ahead and paste makeup. So now, suddenly, she will have the same makeup that she had for her formal outfit will be on her sleepwear. So that is just a very useful thing to do if you don't want to go into Create a Sim and manually change all of their makeup for every single outfit. So that's why MC Dress is such a great thing. Now, the other things in here, like MC Pregnancy, is, you can, when you click on a selected Sim and click on MC Pregnancy, this works with your current selected Sim or with a random Sim in the world. Basically, if they are pregnant, it will show you that they're pregnant. It will show you, how many babies they're expecting, what the babies' genders are, all of that stuff, who they're expecting with, all of that stuff. But if your current Sim is pregnant, you can also change, what trimester they're in. You can cheat to have them go into labor. You can pause their pregnancy as well. So if you don't want them to give birth while you're not on the lot with them, if you play like rotationally or whatever, you can pause their pregnancy. You can also list their children, so it will tell you, what their children's names are. You can also cheat to have them start a pregnancy. So let's say I want Bella to be pregnant with Mortimer. She's gonna have 2 male babies. Okay, so she's pregnant with 1 male baby and 1 female baby. 2, 4, 6. Okay, yeah, so yeah, she's pregnant. Wow, I cannot speak. She's pregnant with 1 male baby. Okay, so she's pregnant, she doesn't know. I'm gonna cheat her into her 2nd trimester. And, suddenly she is very clearly pregnant. And that is a great way of doing stuff like that. If you want to set up certain things, you can also end the pregnancy. You can change the partner if you wanted to. Pause the pregnancy, specify the offspring count. So, she's only having 1 currently. But I can cheat and say that she's having both a boy and a girl. If I specify offspring count to, I don't know why it's not. Oh, it's not because I know why it's not. And currently they have 6 Sims in the household, so she's expecting 1 baby. But then where's the cat is actually also pregnant. So if you click on a pet, this also works. But you can click on a pet and you can cheat, like make them happy. MC pregnancy. So she is currently pregnant, our cat, and she's expecting a female baby. So yeah, you can change that. I forgot that the cat was pregnant. But yeah, so that's just a little heads up for MC pregnancy. It's really great if you wanted to know if your pets are pregnant or whatever. So yeah, just a heads up with that. Now, MC tuner is something I don't use all that often. So I don't really know what a lot of these things do. So yeah, just a heads up there. But Sim flags. So for Sim flags, you can flag your Sim to have certain things happen to them or not happen to them. So I can flag her career to freeze it. So that means that she won't level up in her career again. I can flag freeze her appearance or physique, so she won't so the Sim won't get any more muscular or they won't put on weight, they won't lose weight, they'll stay exactly the same. You can flag them to bypass outfit changes, which means they won't randomly change their outfit if they're on another lot. And like MC pregnancy, you can flag their offspring, you know, all of that kind of stuff. A lot of the things with MC Command Center, you really do have to just play around with and see what happens, which is why I say back up your saves before you do that. Now, relationships is also very great because this basically allows you to delete a relationship with any sim that your sim already knows. So, for example, if I don't want her to know any of these sims, I can just delete their relationship and they will completely forget that that sim exists. You can also change their relationships. So you can add a relationship to, let's say, the sim, and I can make the sim her sister or her daughter. I can also add relationship bits, which basically means like how high the relationships are. You can add relationships to sims on the lot. You can like make them forget everyone that's on the lot. You can divorce. If your sim is married, you can have them get a divorce. But this is really great for setting up even like family relationships. So if you want your sim to have a sibling or a mother or father or whatever from another household, you can do it without having them in your household and doing it in Create a Sim. You can just do it with MC Command Center, which is really, really useful. So yeah, those are a lot of like, if not all of the settings that you have when you're on the sim themselves. Now, next up is the one that is a little bit more fiddly, and this is kind of where, you know, on the Sims, if you click on the Sims, those are kind of like the cheats for that particular specific sim, you know, so like changing skills, careers, all of that stuff, things that apply to that particularly selected sim. Whereas on the mailbox, you change things on like a, I guess, surroundings level, like seasons, time, summoning other sims, stuff like that. Now on the computer, it's a little bit more of the fiddly settings side of the mod. Now this is where it can get very overwhelming very, very fast. And what I would recommend if you download this mod is read through absolutely everything. Deadpool, who is the creator of this mod, they have an entire website with information about this mod, which I will leave linked down below. Go through, read through all of it. Or if you want to just fly by the seat of your pants, install the mod and then play around with the settings yourself. Just back up your saves. Don't say that I didn't tell you to back up your saves. But yeah, back up your saves and then play around with the settings. But basically, with the computer, if you go to the first one, MC settings, you can enable an autosave, which very, very great. Like, you can show confirmation dialogue, you know, choose a save name for them to save to, like time intervals, all of that stuff. Also, under gameplay settings, you can enable things like adopt neglected child. So if enabled, when it is determined that a baby, toddler, or child is neglected, they will be adopted by an NPC household in the world. So basically, if your Sims get taken away by social services, they won't just disappear into the void and not exist in your game anymore. They will actually be adopted by another household, so they will still be in the game, if that makes sense. And adopt no caregiver. So if all of the adults in a household dies and there's still like children, toddlers, or infants or whatever on the lot that need a caregiver, they won't just disappear. They will actually be added into a different household, like they've been adopted. You can change how difficult it is to gain character values, and all of these dialogues that pop up, they do explain like the values and they explain what you can change and what it will do if you change it. So yeah, just read through everything. Like I said, you can change the fame difficulty, game speed, maximum household size is something that you can also change. Now this, be careful with, because so it does warn you that note that if this is changed to more than 8, CAS will not function correctly to show all Sims in the household. So basically, if I were to up this like default number to 10 Sims, for example, and I had 10 Sims in my household, if I then went into Create a Sim with all of those Sims, like modifying the household, 2 of those Sims will be deleted. Like, the game just cannot function that way. Create a sim doesn't work that way. It doesn't have the space to show you all of the sims. So you can do that. Just be aware that if you enter create a sim, the game will glitch out. So that is just a heads up. But you can maximum rename length, like how many characters you can have in a name. So it also says, warning, specifying a first or last name longer than 14 characters will result in a cache error if that sim is modified and saved. Again, like, it does tell you that you can break stuff if you fiddle with all of this stuff. So motive knee decay, how fast things can decay on dogs and cats and babies, that's very useful. Horses, you know, all of that stuff. It tells you, like, oh, it won't decay that fast, or, you know, you can make it decay slower or faster, or all of that stuff. You can also pause on zone. This is something I have on permanently. So if you load into a new lot, so if you have your sim travel somewhere, or, you know, you load into a game, you load into your household, it will automatically be paused. Like, your game won't randomly start running if you forget that you're loading into something, which I do a lot. So yeah, I have that on always. So sims are immortal. If enabled, all sims will be immune to death. You know, have your sims be immortal. If you want to do that, you can do that. Sims die on lot. So this is also another useful thing. If enabled, when sims are killed with the kill sim command, the Reaper will only show up if they're on the lot. If they are wandering the streets, they will just turn into ghosts. So yeah, so that means, like, you won't randomly have urns and stuff spawning in the middle of the street, if that makes sense. So it also says, where was I? Skill settings, how difficult it is to gain skills. You can freeze skills so that the sim won't, like, raise that skill any further. Teleport, overlaps, random aging, you know, all of that kind of stuff. Money settings, you can allow children to pay the bills if you wanted to. You can change your apartment bill percentage. So if you want apartment bills like rent and stuff to be cheaper or more expensive, you can do that. You can auto pay bills, so your sims won't ever have to worry about forgetting to pay their bills. The game will just do it automatically. You can change your bill percentage, so you know how expensive your house bills are. You can enable child support if you wanted to. So if your sim has a child in a different household, they will pay, like, you can enable child support first off. So if a child is not living with both parents, this setting can allow the money to be removed or paid to the active sim household. So then you can choose all sims. So all sims will, like, single parents will get money, or married only. Child support and earnings will happen for single parents with children living with them only if they are married to the other parent. So if your sims are married and they're, like, separated, for example, one sim will pay money to the other one that has custody of the child. Unmarried sims only, so it only happens if they're not married. So that's where you enable it, and then on the child support percentage you choose how much they pay. So inheritance sim type, so you know, usually it's not on, but when a sim dies, the setting determines whether or not they leave any of their household funds to their spouse or children, depending on the type of sim that is dying. So you know, you can choose active sims, NPC sims, played, unplayed, you know, all of that stuff. Basically inheritance. So inheritance spouse first. Usually it is enabled, so if enabled, when a sim dies, if they have a spouse, then that spouse will receive the inheritance rather than the children. You can change that if you wanted to. So there's a lot of stuff, especially for, like, notification stuff. So you can change the sim menu order. You can change console commands. So these are things that I usually always have on. So build by settings, for example. You can make it so that free build for, you know, when you're on community lots, like the hospital, for example, is always enabled. You can turn move objects always on, show live edit objects, you know, career unlocks, all of that stuff. Debug commands in cheats. So usually a lot of the debug stuff, so like if you shift click on a sim or an object or whatever, won't show up unless you have the debug cheat on, the debug command cheat on. But with this, you can make sure that it's always on, so you don't have to worry about that. Enable full edit creator sim. Headline effects, hover effects, testing cheats, you can have that always on, so you don't have to worry about constantly putting it in, which is very useful. Logging settings, again, I don't use all that often. Notification settings, so this is also very useful, so especially when you play like a legacy or a rotational save and you want to stay up to date with what is happening. You can choose like aging and death notifications, so it will show you like when Sims age up only if they're your active friends, or you can choose all, and then it will show you when every Sim in the world, every time they age up, it will let you know. It will show you when every Sim in the world dies, same thing. It will show you birthday notifications. It will show you pet death notifications if you enable that. You can also choose population notifications, show when, you know, houses are empty, show when Sims are moving, pregnancies, so, you know, show details about this. So when a Sim gives birth, it will tell you like, okay, they gave birth to a boy and a girl, or a girl called yada yada yada. And it will show you that. Or it can just show you like, you know, you can enable that so that you get the details, or it will just tell you that, you know, Nancy Landgrab gave birth to a baby. Or it can tell you like Nancy Landgrab gave birth to a baby called X, Y, and Z, for example. Now, birth notifications, you can choose like all, or you can choose, you know, who it shows you. Marriage notifications shows you when a Sim gets married. Because MC Command Center does do that, you don't need to use neighborhood stories for that. You can use MC Command Center for story progression. Show pregnancy notifications, basically when they get pregnant. Show relationship changes, so when a Sim that's married, for example, gets divorced, or when a Sim, you know, enters into a relationship with another Sim, or, you know, stuff like that, basically. Pregnancy notifications. Show birth details. Show birth notifications, show marriage notifications. I showed you this just, right? I think I did. Anyway, my brain is all over the place. Neighborhood stories settings. So, show adoption types. Now, neighborhood story settings is, you don't have to mess with these settings if you don't play with neighborhood stories. If you have neighborhood stories disabled, you don't need these settings. But if you want to play with those as well, and then you can go in and you can kind of like, I guess, go into more detail with it. So this will show you if a Sim is adopted through neighborhood stories, if a Sim changes their career through neighborhood stories, dies, pet adoption, population types, you know, all of that stuff. All of those are neighborhood stories notifications. So you don't have to click on the mailbox and check all of the neighborhood stories to see what's going on. You can, like, MC Command Center can let you know, like, this Sim moved, this Sim had a baby, etc, etc. So, show club monitor notifications. If enabled, a notification will be sent for any Sim added to a club membership when MC club monitoring runs. So, you know, club changes. Show notifications. So, if you turn this off, none of the notifications will show, basically. That's just a, you know, cheat all, basically. Show version updates. So if you're not sure about, you know, if your version of MC Command Center is up to date, you can enable this. So it will tell you, like, every time you open the game, it will check to make sure that you're running the latest version of the mod, which is great, very useful to have. Phone text, you can turn on. The setting will send text messages that your Sims will receive when your phone is silent. So, you know, you can say no text and your Sims won't receive a text message ever. Or just festival ones, or all texts, or, you know, all of that stuff. Menu settings, you can choose what they show. You can choose, you know, cheat menus, all of that stuff. Now, moving on from that is basically the notification settings. See, like I said, there's a lot of stuff that you can change with this mod. This video is probably going to be obscenely long. I do apologize for that. But I will try and make sure to timestamp everything correctly. But yeah, I figured, you know, I'll do this. I'll do it in a comprehensive manner because a lot of you guys have been asking me how I set up MC Command Center and how I have mine set up and what I use it for. So I figured, you know, we'll do this. And it's actually, I wish I had a video like this when I started using the mod, basically. So yeah, hopefully this is helpful for someone. But moving on, we have relationship settings. Now, Relationship settings is like you can allow teens to gain the parenting skill if you wanted to. Auto relationship settings like breakup settings. So breakup, move out. So if a sim is in a relationship living with their significant other, if they break up, you can choose who moves out, if you want it to be random, or the male sim, or the female sim, or none, and you want them to keep living together even when they're broken up. Couples relationship change percentage. This basically means that, you know, what's the likelihood of a relationship being changed by the mod. You can choose, you know, if the children move out with them if they break up. You can obviously bypass played households if you don't want the mod to mess with the sims that you're actively playing or that you've played with. Then you can enable that. Move in settings. You can choose the ages for sims that will move into an empty lot. If, you know, the game runs that check, there's an empty lot, they'll move someone in. Allow homeless romance move-ins, which is just weird. But yeah, move in romance level. So basically, when two sims are dating or in a relationship or whatever, and this check runs, it will determine if those sims will move in. So if they are lovers, they will move in together. If they are sweethearts, they will move in together. Or soulmates, or true lovers, or, you know, basically it's kind of like the threshold for how high their relationship needs to be before the game decides, okay, I'll move them in together. So that is very useful to know. So it also says friendship decay. So you can decide how quickly relationships decay. You can do the same with romantic decay as well, percentages. How difficult it is to make friendships and how difficult it is to make romantic relationships happen. You can adjust that, make it easier or harder. Relationship culling is another thing. So checkmark is a selected option. Usually EA has their own relationship culling thing that they do, where basically it's just like their rules. So how the game basically chooses when to delete certain sims from the game that you're not playing with, obviously, or when to have your sims forget about another sim if they haven't spoken to them in a while, you know, stuff like that. And that's usually what happens when you're playing a family and you realize, oh, I used to know this sim, but suddenly I don't know them anymore. Or, oh, I used to have a baby, if you're like playing the 100 baby challenge. I had a baby with this sim, but suddenly the sim doesn't exist anymore. That's because EA culled those sims from the game. Now, I usually play with it as completely off. Like, you know, the game will never delete sims by itself. I need to do it myself. If I want to delete a sim, I have to do it. My sims will also never forget a relationship with another sim. So even if that sim died and they've been ghosts forever, my sim will not forget that sim, which is very, very useful. I hate when the game did that. So yeah, just be aware of that. Also, if you do that, just be aware that the game won't delete any sims that aren't in your world. So if you have, the game will keep spawning sims, so you need to periodically go through and delete sims from your household bin. Otherwise, your save file can have hundreds of sims just running around for no reason. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, so those are the relationship settings. Next up, we have age span duration. So basically, obviously in the game, we have short, normal, and long lifespans. But if you want to play around with age span duration, you can kind of fiddle with that a little bit more. So let's say for normal, I usually play on normal. You can go in and choose. So normally, young adults, EA, it tells you EA's default is 28 days for young adult sims. Now, if you wanted that to be something different, for example, let's say I wanted young adult sims to be young adults for 32 days, not 28. You can change that, but only for normal lifespan. So if you don't want to mess with like long lifespan, you don't have to. But if you do that, you need to restart your game. It's not going to take effect until you restart your game. So a lot of the settings, you can just change them and they will take effect immediately without you having to like restart the game or anything like that. But if you need to restart the game, it will pop up and it will tell you that, you need to restart your game. But it's great because, babies usually on normal lifespan, they're only babies for 1 day, like newborns. You can change that if you wanted to. And it's really, really useful. You can do it for short lifespan, long lifespan. You can basically personalize it a lot. You can also change it for dogs and cats and horses separately from your Sims. So if you want your Sims to play on short lifespan, but you don't want your dogs or your cats to die that quickly, you can have them live longer. You can have them outlive like 5 generations of your Sims if you wanted to do that. So yeah, those are a lot of the like core MC Command Center settings wise. Now, the rest of this stuff is a lot more fiddly, like I said. Now, MCCAS basically just allows you to exclude certain traits from spawning on random Sims. You can, set default walk style. So if you want to have every Sim that the game spawns to have a certain walk style, like default assigned to them, you can do that. Stuff like that. You can auto set celebrity walk styles, where you can turn it off so that celebrities won't randomly start using that annoying celebrity walk style. And, stuff like that. It's very useful if you want to play around with all of those things. Now, MC Career is basically where Sims will buy. This is basically where you can cheat career stuff. So how difficult it is to get promoted in a career. You can have your children's Sims quit school so they won't be in school anymore. Teens can do the same. Neighborhood stories settings. You can alter neighborhood stories. It means basically, if this setting is enabled, neighborhood stories career changes will be limited by MC Command Center settings. So basically, it means that you can have your neighborhood stories on to change your careers, but they also won't. They'll also take your MC Command Center settings into account when doing that. For example, you can choose how difficult it is to, like, how fast your Sims complete homework, how difficult it is to get into the secret society, how difficult university is, for example, and university homework is. Very, very useful to have. There's a lot of mods out there that will change those specific things, but you don't always need all of those mods if you just change it in MC Command Center. So that's something very useful to keep an eye on. MC Cleaner, again, relationship cleaner, stuff like that. You can, like, clean out relationships, basically. So if your Sim has a lot of acquaintances and you don't really care about their acquaintances, you can clean that up so that it basically helps your game run a little bit smoother if you wanted to do that. Just be careful with that, again. Like, it can delete relationships between Sims if you don't want to do that. Now, MC Clubs. This is where I said, when we were on the Sim, when I said, you can cheat to put them in a club. This is why that was important. So, club member count. Basically, you can set the amount of members in a club. Usually, it's only 8. But you can up that to however high you want it to be. Maximum value of 50. But it does tell you, note that the club dialogue does not allow adding more than 8 members. They must be invited through interactions. So basically, in the vanilla game, your Sim can only have 8 members in a club. And if you're the leader of a club, you can only add up to 8 members. But if you enable this setting, you can basically go in and then, if your club has a maximum membership of 10, for example, I can go in, click on another Sim that I want in this club, and cheat to put them in the club through MC Command Center. Like I mentioned earlier, you just can't do it from the regular game UI. You can cheat to do it through the mod, or you can click on them and invite them to the club manually through, like, socialization, if that makes sense. Now, you can also maximum joinable clubs. So usually Sims can only be a part of 3 clubs, but you can up that. But again, the game menu itself down here won't allow you to join more than 3. You will need to do that through cheats or through inviting a Sim to your club, like, through socialization. Monitor club members. On scheduled nights, clubs will be filled with eligible Sims if there are vacancies. Also, ineligible members will be removed. So this is something I don't usually play with because I don't want my club system messed with by the game. But you can, if your club has like, if you've had a club for a while and half of the members have keeled over and died, and you don't manually want to go in and choose new members for it, you can enable this and the game will just like fill the club with members if there are open spaces. So yeah, you can do that. Now moving on to MC Dresser. MC Dresser, again, makeup settings. You can, copy makeup. You can choose the ages that have makeup on, makeup for certain outfits only, stuff like that. Again, very like fiddly stuff. You can, if you play around with those settings especially, you can kind of cut down on the amount of weird towny fashion that spawns in your game, if you know what I mean. So yeah, you can do that if you wanted to. Now, MC Occult is really great because MC Occult basically, it tells you stuff like, for aliens, for example, the chance of Sims getting pregnant from abductions, the ages of Sims that can get pregnant from abductions, the pollinated gender. So if you don't want the pollinators to be female, you can male, anything like that. If you, depending on your stories, abduction gender preferences. So the Sims, only male Sims will get pregnant from alien abductions, but you can make that female Sims too. Ages, abduction settings, like, the ages of Sims that can get abducted, the times that they can get abducted, how long the abduction lasts, the like how many hours there is between abductions. You can force alien disguises so that the aliens won't like ever show up without their disguises. And other pregnancy. Now, other pregnancy is one that all of the occults have. So also for these, like for aliens as well. Basically, let's go to werewolves, for example. You can select the maximum amount of werewolves in your game. So usually it's -1. That is the default. That means that there is no limit. So the chances are that if the game generates a random sim, that sim could end up being a werewolf. But if you change this value to be like higher or lower or whatever, that basically means that the game won't generate more werewolves. Or you can make it so that the game doesn't generate any werewolves if you don't want werewolves in your game. And also, other pregnancy is a setting that you have underneath all of the occults. Basically, that means that use custom pregnancy if enabled. EA's default offspring may be overwritten by occult offspring based on the percentages defined within this module. So this has to do with a lot of fiddly things, like the chances of, your werewolf, and let's say if you have a werewolf and a human, for example, what are the chances of them having a werewolf baby? Usually it's 50-50. If you have a werewolf and a human, chances are 50-50 whether they're going to be human or werewolf. But you can change that. You can make it more, you can make it less. But you can also change it if you have, let's say you have a werewolf and an alien couple. You can choose if you want them to be a werewolf, an alien, or a hybrid. So, you can mess around with a lot of those settings and change the chances, or the chances of them having those kinds of kids, which is very, very nice. MC Tuner is something I don't usually use, like change interaction autonomy, like basically the chances of them autonomously performing certain interactions, like autonomously being flirty, autonomously cleaning, all of that kind of stuff. You can get very, very specific with those things. I just don't bother usually, but you can. Now, MC population, pregnancy, and woohoo is actually where I spend most of my time when setting up MC Command Center stuff. So, MC population, moving settings. So, this is a lot of finicky things. So, you can choose if Sims will move into empty houses. You can choose if there's only elders living in a house. You can choose to move them out and have them just be in the bin and open up that house to move in new Sims. You can choose whether teens move as dependents. So Usually teenagers won't move out on their own, they will move out with an adult sim. But you can choose that, you can change that to say that, hey, teens can live on their own. So they don't need to move out with a, like, caregiver. Obviously, bypass played households, maximum household pets is also really good. Because a lot of the times I've noticed that the game, if you don't keep an eye on this, the game will have like one sim in a household, and that sim will keep adopting pets, and they'll end up with like 7 pets in a household, which there's no point in that, because that basically means that that sim won't get married, won't have kids, and that kind of like halts your story progression. So you can say like, hey, random households won't have more than 2 pets, like ever, just to make sure that they can, you know, continue with their story progression, basically. Open houses, so they basically, this means like the game will always leave at least, for example, like 2 houses empty in every world for sims, that they won't move into those houses, if that makes sense. Enforce vampire homes. This means that vampires will only move into lots with specific vampire lot traits. So some of the lot traits that came with the vampire pack, they won't move into normal lots. And also, normal non-vampires won't move into those lots. So you won't have a lot in Forgotten Hollow that has only humans living in it for no reason. So, you know, that's something to keep in mind. Also, dorm residents, you can bypass them so that dorm residents like university students won't move out and move around. They will stay in their dorms, which is great. Population settings, this is very finicky. I never mess with this, but basically it just means that, you know, the percentage of, let's say, toddlers in your world, in your game, percentage of elders, percentage of, you know, all of that stuff. You can get very specific with all of these things. That all affects the ages and the types of sims that the game spawns. Also, butler ages. You can choose, like, my butlers will only be young adults, or they will only be elders, or, you know, all 3. Which means that when your game spawns a new butler for your sims, they can choose from only those ages, for example. Enable or disable bar nights. So, fairly self-explanatory. You can disable bar nights if you don't want those in your game. What am I doing? Okay, so population. You can random lot challenges. The game will choose, you know, what lot challenges to add to specific lots. You can like cause some chaos that way. Neighborhood stories, again, those are all like, they will be limited by MC population settings. This means that ancestral families stay in their homes. For move-ins, we won't move in flagged as homeless. Also, if bypass placed household is set, those will be bypassed. So this means that the goth family, if you have neighborhood stories on and you don't play with the goths, the game won't randomly decide to move out the goth family from their house. They will stay in their house. They won't like randomly decide to up and move to Henford on Bagley for no reason. So, you know, stuff like that. The game will keep those things in mind. And then other settings under like population settings is things like bypass sim culling, so they won't ever be culled if you have high numbers. Now again, this, keep in mind that if you have this enabled, the game won't delete sims if you have a lot of sims in your game. So to avoid any like, you know, like optimization and performance issues, you need to go through periodically yourself and delete sims from the manage worlds like menu. From like, I usually go through and delete sims that either A, look like very random sims, like they just look weird, or they're not in the world at all, like they're not living anywhere. I'll delete those. Or if they're like only one sim, I'll delete them, or, you know, stuff like that. Just random stuff, you know, I'll go through and delete that myself. You can bypass the clown walk by, so the sad clown won't walk by your house for no reason. Reaper stalking, which means like the Reaper won't randomly show up in public places. Randomize visiting sims, disable immortal sims, maximum sims in zone. So usually the maximum amount of sims that the game will allow in a zone, like if you load into a house, the house zone isn't just on your lot, it's also the neighborhood surrounding it. So all of the area that your sim can interact with around the lot that they're on counts as their zone. So usually the default is 20. So there won't ever be more than 20 sims in any particular zone that your sim is loaded into. But with this, you can up that value. So you can have a huge area like the Central Park in San Myshuno. That's a very big space to only have 20 sims in that whole space. So it ends up feeling very empty. But if you up the amount of sims that can be in that zone, more sims will go there. So it can feel a little bit more alive, if that makes sense. You also have adjust sims on lot. So this basically just means that, allow sims to spawn based on the maximum sims on the lot settings. So like spa settings, you'll spawn a yoga instructor, you'll spawn, stuff like that. But yeah, those are all of the MC population settings. Now MC pregnancy is another thing. So adoption settings under MC pregnancy, adoption ages, sims that will get adopted. For example, like randomly adopted by households. So when households spawn and they adopt a sim, those are the ages. The adoption percentages, so like their gender percentages, the adoption sex, opposite sex. So like if you have a gay couple or a lesbian couple or whatever, and chances that they will adopt children. Rename non-active adoptions. So the sims will actually be renamed to their adoptive family name. Stuff like that. So those are adoption settings. Marriage sim selection. Now, again, very finicky, but basically all of these settings are, you can choose valid marriage ages. So these are the ages that the game will consider when making random marriages through MC Command Center. You can use gender preferences. So if you have a sim's gender preference set, the game won't decide that randomly they're married to a sim of a gender that they're not attracted to, for example. You can marriage percentages. Now, these percentages are for when the game decides to randomly marry sims. Adults, 7%. There's a 7% chance that an adult sim will get married when the game runs the check. Or the young adults, 5%, that they will get married when the game runs the check. Basically, that just means that a lot of the time when you run these random like story progression stuff, sometimes the mod will like run that check, and then suddenly all of the single sims in your world have gotten married all at once, and there's no more single sims anywhere. Whereas if you mess with the percentages, you can kind of control how many of them get married at any single point, so they don't all get married at the exact same time, if that makes sense. So yeah, marriage percentages, flag gender preference, days to run checks. So days to run checks, basically this is every Monday in the game, the mod will check to see if there's a sim or a couple of sims that need to get married, and it will have them get married only on that day. So it won't do it on another day. You can specify the days for when that happens. Same thing for marriage percentages. If you don't want this part of the mod to function, like if you don't want any of your sims to get married randomly without you telling them to, if you set all of these values to 0, like teens, for example, teens, I don't want my teens randomly getting married, so I have it set to 0 because I don't want them to randomly get married. Same thing for elders. So if you do that for all of the ages, none of them will get married. So you don't have to worry about that. Just set all of the percentages to 0 and you don't have to worry about it at all. That's effectively like turning it off, if that makes sense. So bypass active sim romances. If your sim is in a romantic relationship with another sim, the other sim won't randomly get married, is basically what it means. Bypass robots, self-explanatory. Bypass played households and dorm residents. Again, self-explanatory. You don't want random dorm townies to get married. Allow homeless marriage. So basically, this means that sims that don't live on a lot, sims that are not in your world, they won't be eligible for the game to use in marriages. So the game will only like set up marriages between Sims that already live in a house somewhere in your game, if that makes sense. So those are the marriage sim selection. Neighborhood stories, again, same thing. It basically just means that neighborhood stories will respect MC Command Center settings. It won't just do its own thing. Offspring. So again, this is maximum household children, whether Sims will inherit traits from their parents. So if you have this enabled, it means that your babies will have traits from either of their parents. They have a chance of inheriting one of their traits. Maximum offspring, offspring gender, sync child surnames. So, you know, when a child is adopted or a couple is married, the child's surname will be changed to match the parents if both of the parents have matching surnames. So, you know, stuff like that. It means that, you know, if you adopt a child, they'll get your name. You know, stuff like that. Other marriage settings is, you know, you can choose to manually rename them, or the game can automatically rename them. Move, if you want to have them move in with each other, you can enable that. Remove service limit basically means that your sim can get married to like the pizza delivery guy and the maid and, you know, all of that stuff. You rename the opposite sex, rename same gender, same neighborhood. So if you want to enable this, it means that Sims from Willow Creek will only be selected to marry Sims from Willow Creek. So they won't get married to someone in Del Sol Valley and then move to Del Sol Valley. They will stay in their neighborhood. And you can also do the same for always limit partners by neighborhood, never limit partners by neighborhood, or prefer partners in the same neighborhood. So they will prefer to pick people from their neighborhood, but if there aren't any people available in their neighborhood, they will choose someone from a different one. So yeah, just something to keep in mind. Use traits for marriage. Like, this is like, change the marriage percentage based on applicable traits. So like, they'll only get married if they have similar traits. I don't ever play with that. Other marriage, other pregnancy as well. So allow pregnancy aging. So basically it does what it says. Auto marriage percentage. So the percentage chance that the game will automatically have Sims get married if they've gotten pregnant together. Pause Sims pregnancy. You can choose to pause all pregnancies or only NPCs or only active Sims, you know, all of that stuff. Pause on playable labor. So basically that means that when a non-active Sim, so if a Sim in a different household goes into labor, their pregnancy will be paused. A message will display and the game will pause. So basically it tells you, like, if your sister in a different household has gone into labor, the game will tell you, so that you can choose if you want to go into their household and play out their labor. Also, you can choose pregnancy duration, how many days the pregnancies last. Default, it's 3, but you can up that or make it shorter or whatever. Random mood durations, use random moods, use traits for pregnancy, you know, all of those kinds of stuff. You can also choose your partner Sim selection. So for marriages, you know, allow affairs. If you want your Sims to maybe have an affair on the side, what's the chance of that happening? I'm not going to do that because enforce family. So basically your Sims won't get pregnant from other Sims. You know, it's enabled default, which means they will recognize, like, okay, this Sim is my cousin once removed, so the game won't have them get married because they're their cousin. So, you know, yeah, stuff like that. Limit by relationship. So for pregnancy, you can limit it by woohoo partners, no relationship limit, married or significant others. So this just means that Sims won't get pregnant if they're not married. They won't get pregnant if they're not in a committed relationship, or they won't get pregnant, you know, stuff like that. They won't just randomly get pregnant, basically. It also says occupancy preferences. So, you know, prefers home Sims, prefers living in homes only, prefers homeless Sims, or none. Like, it's basically just the game's way of you choosing who your Sims can get pregnant with, who the game can choose as a partner for them. Occults only, if you want to have them, if you're playing with an occult and you only want your Sim to get pregnant with another Sim from that occult. same sex, use same age group as well. So, you know, you won't have a young adult sim get pregnant from an elder sim or vice versa, or, you know, stuff like that. You can have them choose same age groups. Valid partner ages, so you can choose like teens, young adults, elders, etc., etc. So yeah, a lot of these options are things that you can mess around with, or you can just choose to ignore and the game will like figure it out on its own, basically. So yeah, we were just in partner sim. You can do the same basically for pet pregnancies. So, you know, pets can randomly get pregnant. I'm not going to go through every single one of those because they're basically the same as sim pregnancies. They're just for pets. Pregnant sim selections, again, dorm sims, bypass them so that they don't get pregnant randomly. Days until max age is important because that just means that, you know, if your sims are 10 days away from becoming an elder, for example, they won't then get pregnant and then have a baby just before they turn into an elder, because that means that they will die before their child is like a teenager. So, you know, stuff like that. Days to run the checks. So only on Wednesdays is when the game checks to see if someone needs to get pregnant and have a baby, for example. Male pregnancy percentage. So again, this is the same like with the marriage percentage, where if you set all of these values to 0, it means that the game won't randomly generate any pregnancies if you don't initiate it yourself. So something to keep in mind. Valid target ages. So if you want to enable teen pregnancy, you can do that. You can enable elder pregnancy if you want to do that. But yeah, that's just the ages for sims that can get pregnant. Use gender preferences. So if your sim is gay, they won't get pregnant from a male sim, like they just won't. So yeah, stuff like that. Keep that in mind. Spouse sim selection. Basically the exact same thing. This is the same thing, like, you know, they'll choose the same age group, they'll choose the correct gender preference, they'll choose, you know, stuff like that. So those are all of the MC pregnancy settings. And then the last one that I want to go through is MC woohoo. Now, woohoo actions is basically allow family. No, you can allow teenagers to have woohoo. You're going to allow same-sex try for baby. No strings woohoo. Basically means that you can try for a baby and woohoo without any romantic relationship. So yeah, you can do that. You can allow try for baby, so you can allow sims to autonomously try for babies. You can also elder try for baby if you want elders to be able to get pregnant. Woohoo pregnancy is one I mess around with a lot. So risky woohoo percent is basically what it sounds like. Usually you will have to have your sims try for a baby if you want them to get pregnant. But with risky woohoo, they can accidentally get pregnant just from woohooing, depending on how high you set this value. So yeah, keep that in mind. Use fertility in risky. So basically that means like if they get pregnant from risky woohoo, chances are it could be twins. Try for baby percent. So usually it's on 80. You can up that, make it lower, all of that stuff. Opposite sex pregnancy, same sex pregnancy. All of those kind of options that you have there. Woohoo reactions, so bed sharing. So, you know, sims will sleep in other beds. Sims will sleep in beds with other sims without them being like related or in a relationship. You can have random sims just sharing a bed if you wanted to. No jealousy, so sims won't get jealous. Use privacy, you know, like sims will shoo other sims from the room. Sleepy woohoo basically means that if they have woohoo between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m., they will both of them will stay in bed and go to sleep. Basically, is what it means. They won't get up at like 2 a.m. and like wander around the house. Sim nudity, like, you know, it does what it says. Like, you know, nude woohoo, nude spa basically means they'll do like nude yoga, like they'll do yoga in the nude, workout, you know, all of that stuff. So yeah, you can change that. And then other settings is autonomous woohoo. So like autonomous, they'll autonomously woohoo, they'll autonomously try for a baby. They'll like extreme woohoo is like they'll do it more often, which can be dangerous if you play with risky woohoo because your sims can get pregnant a lot. You can enable birth control. You can, you know, change all of those things. Like, you know, if you want to play with risky but use birth control, that basically is a lot of those settings. So yeah, those are a lot of like those are the settings that I use when I play with MC Command Center. But with all of that said, you guys, I'm going to go through and quickly show you how to install MC Command Center if you want to play with it yourself. Okay, so here we are on the MC Command Center page. And like I said, I will leave this linked in the description down below. Go through, they have a documentation section here where they have an overview page. They list overall information about MC Command Center and the different modules. So the different modules are the things that I just took you through, like pregnancy, woohoo, population, and what it all means, how it all works, all of that stuff. There's also a lot of other information here, like help sections. But what you're going to be looking for is the download MC Command Center. So you're going to click on that, and then it will show you the public releases and all of that stuff. So you're going to go through and you will see that you have MC Command Center. This is the latest one, the 2023.5.0. At the time I'm recording this is the latest one. But you will also see that there is a MC Woohoo module. Now, usually I download both because MC Woohoo is what gives you access to the Woohoo settings, to the pregnancy settings, stuff like that. So if you don't download this, you won't have access to those settings. So what you're going to do is you're going to download both of these, and they come up. I am just going to save them to my downloads folder really quickly. And then you have both of them downloaded, as you can see. Now they're going to be in zip files. So what you're going to do is you're going to right click on them, and I use 7-zip to extract my folders, but I'm going to extract them to the one that has like a little dash, because that means they will be restricted to folders. Then what you're going to do is you're going to go into this, and this is how you can choose what you want in your game. So you need the MC CMD Center, you need the package file, and you need the script file for this mod to function. But if you don't want to play with MC clubs, for example, if you don't want those settings, if you don't care about it, or if you don't care about the pregnancy settings or whatever, you don't have to install those. But usually when I play, I install all of those settings. So what you're going to go and do, what I usually do, is I make a folder, not a shortcut. I make a folder in my mods folder. I usually just call it like MCC, because I know that is MC Command Center. Then I'm going to go and find all of those files. So we have all of the MC Command Center files. I'm going to grab all of them, and I have my MCC folder open here. It's basically under mods for The Sims. So if you go to documents, go to electronic arts, The Sims 4, and then to mods, that's where you put all of your mods. I create a subfolder for these big mods just so that I can have them all organized well. But then you're going to go drag all of those to MCC, and then this folder will be empty. So the regular MC Command Center modules are 14 folders, as you just saw. Now the MC Woohoo script and package files are 2 folders. So if you put those in as well, same folder, I have them all in one, you will end up with 16 items. That is what, if you want to install all of the MC Command Center functionality of the mod, you will have 16 files in your folder. That's the amount of files you need to install. Now, once you run your game for the first time, or once you mess with the settings or anything like that, this folder, wherever you have all of your MC Command Center files, there will be a folder that the game generates called MCCC settings or something like that. It's MC settings. This CFG file will also generate in this folder. That file is what saves all of your MC Command Center settings, the ones you have set up. So once you go and you have to update the mod, you don't want to delete that file, because if you delete that file, you're gonna have to go through and re-enable all of your settings. And because there's so many settings, a lot of the times you're probably not going to remember what you had enabled. So when you update the mod, let's say for example these settings were ones that I just had in my game. Okay, so I've played the game, I set up my settings, the game has spawned a settings folder. Now if I want to go and I want to update the mod, you have to go in and delete all of the other things. But remember, usually when you update the mod, if you have all of the files, you have 14 files. So not 14, 16. So you're going to go through, delete those 16 files, and then put the new ones in the folder. Once you've extracted them, gone through the whole process. Just make sure that you keep your settings file. Otherwise, like I said, you will need to do it all over again. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Sorry this video has been obscenely long. I know it has been obscenely long. But I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found it useful. Like I said, this is the kind of video that I wish I had when I started using MC Command Center. So yeah, let me know if this was useful to you guys. If it was, let me know down in the comments. If there's something else that you're not sure about, because I am sure I missed something somewhere, then ask away in the comments. I will answer your questions, any questions that you have. If I have the answer to them, I will answer them. But yeah, let me know if you enjoyed this kind of video. If you want to see anything else like this, like maybe a rundown of all of the different mods that I use when I play the game, because when I do gameplay, I play with a lot of mods. So if you want me to maybe like run through all of those with you guys or anything like that, then yeah, let me know down in the comments below. Let me know if you enjoyed this. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, give the video a like if you did. Hit the subscribe button if you want to see more Sims content. I usually post mostly speed builds of The Sims 4 as well as The Sims 2. So if that sounds interesting, hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell as well to be notified of whenever I upload a new video. But yeah, a huge thank you to my channel members as well. And I hope you all enjoyed this. I hope you're all having a great week. And I'll talk to you all in my very next video. Bye everyone.